Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz, your host of the Raiders Report, and coming up on today's show, I am a believer that Antonio Pierce and Telesco have already revealed to you what their plan is going to be with this offensive line. I subscribe to the idea that it doesn't matter who your quarterback is. If you're not winning in the trenches, shit doesn't really matter. And the fact that people are going to take time out of their day in the middle of May to watch this show around the offensive linemen, I salute you. And if you're a real one, click that like button, because coming up here on today's show, I am going to tell you what the Raiders' starting 5 offensive linemen are going to be. I'm going to tell you left guard, left tackle, center, right guard, right tackle. Who's going to end up making this roster for a 53-man projection? Is it going to be 8 players? Is it going to be 9, 10? How many players on this offensive line make this roster? I'm going to tell you how many guys make the practice squad. And then I'm going to tell you, out of the 16 offensive linemen that are on our team right now, who we're going to end up getting cut and will not be a part of this organization this upcoming season. To make sure that you never miss anything around the Raiders, hit that subscribe button. Free videos all year long. There will be nobody that provides the amount of content that Jeremy Chuggs and I do around the Silver and Black, May, June, and July. That I can guarantee you. People that I know are part of the Noti gang and always watching our show: Urza, Matt, Madvet, Ron Raspberry, Martin. I salute you guys. If you don't know what the Noti gang is, well, how about this? Why don't you ask some people about it? I want you to want to be a part of the Noti gang. We're going to give out shout-outs in the month of May, June, July, the entire offseason. So my question is, are you going to be a part of it? So here we go. What you're going to learn today, the Raiders starting 5 offensive linemen. This is kind of how I want to build this show, because, again, you got 16 linemen on this roster as it stands right now. And we're going to just slowly chip away at that based off of some of the news, based off of some of the reports that we've seen. I am a believer that the Silver and Black starting 5 for this line this upcoming season is going to be this right here. You're going to have Kolton Miller at left tackle, Jackson Powers-Johnson at left guard, Andre James at center, Dylan Parham at right guard, Thayer Munford at right tackle. The reason why that I'm confident that Kolton Miller is going to be at left tackle, he's your best lineman. That guy protects your blind side. Jackson Powers-Johnson has been predominantly working at left guard during rookie minicamp, and a lot of speculation has him going there. Andre James was called the day they drafted Jackson Powers-Johnson, gave him a 3-year extension. That's your guy. Dylan Parham has worked on the right side before, and Pierce seems very, very confident in Munford and even said it's his job to lose. My question to all of you out there, and it's going to be the pinned comment here on today's show, is I want you to grade the Las Vegas Raiders offensive line A, B, C, D, or F. A, it's excellent. B, it's good. C, it's average. D, it's bad. F, it's a big old fat fail. For me personally, my grade for the Raiders O-line is a B. I am confident in this line. I like what they have. I'm very confident in Kolton Miller. I do believe Andre James is going to continue to get better and better and better as he's done. I can't wait to see JPJ to lay out some people. But, based on that alone, Kolton, JPJ, Andre James, to me, that's a very good left side of your offensive line. Can Dylan Parham in year 3 take that next step? Can Thayer Munford take that next step? I believe Craig's unit has a lot to prove, considering the fact that last season, the past 2 seasons, we've had Carmen Brasilla, one of the best offensive line coaches in the NFL. He went now to the New York Giants. The Raiders have a good line. They still need to go out and prove a little bit more, but I do think that this line has legit top 10 potential. Let's go to the next thing coming up here on the show. We're going to look at the 53-man roster plan. So if I already gave you the starting 5, that means now how many other people are going to end up making that Raiders 53-man roster cut down? Last season, they kept 8 offensive linemen. Could they decide to keep 8, 9, maybe 10, so on and so forth? I'll tell you who ends up making the roster cuts. But I got to tell you about Prize Picks here first. I love me some Prize Picks, and I know I've been talking to you guys about season-long stuff here with America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Prize Picks is really simple to play. I can make my picks and submit my entry in less than a few seconds. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types will make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app out there. I told Chuggs to, you know what, Jeremy, give me your season-long outlook for this upcoming season on Prize Picks, and this is what he gave. And if anybody wants to roll with it, use code CLNS at prizepicks.com/CLNS. He's going to go with Dak Prescott more than 4,112. Is that what? Yeah, 4,125 passing yards. Xavier Worthy, less than 799.5 receiving yards. Brock Bowers, more than 4.5 receiving touchdowns. Josh Jacobs, less than 7.5 rushing touchdowns. Chris Jones, less than 11.75 sacks. I'll tell you what, if you like doing season-long stuff with NFL, I love what Jeremy has been able to cook up here. I think that it's a lock if I'm being real. Hell, give me a second. I might go with Prize Picks right now and put some money down on that one. But seriously, it is simple to play. You just got to pick more than, less than, only 2 to 6 player stat projections. Watch the winnings roll in. Get started now if you haven't already at prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use code CLNS. Pick more, pick less. It's really, really that simple. The Brock Bowers ones, man, they went down. So just saying, if you want to go check them out, go check them out. All right, let's get back here to the 53-man roster playing for Telesco and for AP, because I know that when you look at the entire roster from top to bottom, so right now as it stands, the Raiders' offensive line depth chart is as follows. Now, the people that are pictured are the guys that I just spoke about, and just because you see certain guys on this depth chart are a little bit higher than others, that doesn't mean that they're a lock to make the roster. I mean, we've seen it before where organizations decide to keep further dudes down on a depth chart because maybe they have more upside or maybe they're looking for something a little bit more in particular. But the Raiders, to me, they must be pretty confident in their line, and this has been a big area of concentration for Telesco his entire career, is to try to do his best to be able to build this thing. So overall, you got 16 offensive linemen. To me, the Raiders are going to keep 8 this season, and that might surprise some people, but based off of Telesco making it such a huge priority for them to go out and get offensive linemen, especially like also re-sign linemen, like an Andre James is a move that doesn't get a lot of attention because he wasn't from another team. But the Raiders made that a priority to bring back Andre James early on. You made it a priority in the draft. You're 2 out of your first 3 picks, offensive line. What do you do as soon as you get out of the draft? Offensive line. They are trying to build in the trenches. So to me, the Raiders are going to keep 8. They maybe, and I'm going to say maybe keep 9, but to me, 8 players are a lock. So from already, I already got the starters in here. So that means you're going to have 1 backup, you're going to have another backup, and then you're going to have another backup. To me, the other number 1 backup that is a guaranteed lock to make this team is Delmar Glaze, the rookie that you took out of Maryland in the 3rd round at number 77 overall. This is somebody who has played left tackle, left guard, right tackle. The common theme for the Raiders, for Telesco, is we're going to try to find offensive linemen that have a lot of versatility. That way, when we originally keep our 53 players, we're not going to have to keep 9 linemen. We're not going to have to keep 10 linemen. We're going to be able to keep that additional corner, that additional safety, that additional defensive end. And when you build out your 53-man roster, I think you'll kind of see what I'm saying here. But Delmar Glaze is a lock because of that versatility. Another player that I see as being a lock to make this Raiders offensive line, if he can stay healthy, it's Andrus Peat. And the only question is, can he stay healthy? If he stays healthy, he's a lock to make it on the left side. To me, the Raiders, I think that they really want to have Delmar concentrate on being that best all-around player he can be on the right side. So Delmar is concentrating on being right tackle, right guard. Andrus Peat, and what Antonio Pierce saying that he's going to predominantly stay on the left side, backing up Kolton Miller, also being a backup to left guard. That's where Andrus Peat's going to be, which that means then your final backup spot, you need to be able to find somebody that gives you a little bit more of that versatility on the interior, because Pete's covering left tackle, left guard. Delmar Glaze covering right guard, right tackle. So that name is easy to me, and it's Cody Whitehair. The Raiders, they signed Whitehair. He's got the relationship with Luke Getsy from their time in Chicago last season. Whitehair also has some experience playing center. He also has experience playing guard. So what the Raiders are doing, and it's a very smart thing to do, is they are signing veterans that they trust. They are signing players that they believe have that versatility, that can play all these positions, and they can do it with 8 linemen. So the 8 linemen that are going to make the Raiders roster this upcoming season for the O-line is the players that you see pictured. You got your starting 5. Delmar is going to try to hold it down on the right side. Pete's going to try to hold it down on the left side. Cody Whitehair is going to try to hold it down on the interior. So now that you see this, who's going to make your starting 53, again, this is based on if everybody can stay healthy. What's your confidence level in this Raiders offensive line? I want you to scale it from 1 to 100. 1 being you're not confident at all. 100, it's the best offensive line in the National Football League. I graded the starters at a B, and honestly, I probably would have graded the starters at an 85. I'm going to grade our overall offensive lineman when you add the depth in there at an 88, because I do think that Glaze in year one can at least be somebody that has backup potential. Not a scary thing to say. Cody Whitehair offers you some of that flexibility, can be a backup, your eighth man on like a basketball roster on your offensive line. That's good depth. And then Andrus Peat, him having the amount of starting experience that he has, over 100 career games started, and him being a backup is a good backup. The Raiders have a good starting group, a really good backup offensive line. All in all, I'm going to give this an 88 in my confidence level. Let's now go to the practice squad, because I don't want people to forget about the practice squad. And if you're keeping track at home, like, I know bottom roster guys, but that's what the Raiders Report is about. It's about talking about the 8 players that aren't going to make that roster, because that's what I like to do. So the Raiders, you got 16 players plus David Agoa on your practice squad. You're allowed to have 17 for the silver and black. So you started with 16 offensive linemen, minus 8 making the roster. That means I got 8 linemen fighting for practice squad spots. To me, the silver and black are going to keep 2 to 3 offensive linemen on that practice squad. So when you're picking from these 8 names right here, there's a lot of different areas you can go to. Also remember that age does come into factor. Also, like playing experience for the Raiders necessarily, I wouldn't worry about it, because all of these guys are either first year or like second year players in the NFL. Jordan Meredith has been kind of, bouncing around as well. But to me, I'm going to keep 3 practice squad spots based off of relationships and based off of what the Raiders have done this offseason. So to me, the number one guy they're going to keep on their practice squad is Jordan Meredith. And I don't really see another team swooping in, taking Meredith. He's a guy that played in 7 games last season, has some experience with the Chicago Bears in the past, but another dude that offers you some of that flexibility at offensive guard. The Raiders last season kept Natane Moody as their, we'll call him, veteran offensive guard on the practice squad. That's who Jordan Meredith is going to be this upcoming season. Then the next guy that they're going to end up keeping on the line is the player that I know for a fact they're excited about. And how can you get so excited if they didn't draft him? It's the UDFA, Jake Johanning out of Furman. He was a top 30 visit for the Raiders. He also was given some of the highest money in terms of the UDFAs being signed for the silver and black. Money talks, top 30 visit talks, and when you look at the breakdown, this guy can play offensive guard. He could play center, and he'd be a really tiny center at the NFL. Somebody that just needs to pack on a little bit of weight, but somebody who will make that practice squad. And then if they decide to keep one more, and this is where like Meredith and Jake are like the locks to me that are going to make the practice squad, Will Putnam is going to be the next name here. And if the Raiders are not confident in Jake Johanning and Jordan Meredith's ability to be that backup center, because both of those guys are guards, like that's where they're going to end up being. The Raiders then, I think, end up keeping Putnam, who can play center better than both of those other guys. I think it's also going to come down to Dalton Wagner. If the Raiders didn't have a different offensive line coach, I probably would have kept Dalton Wagner here over Putnam. But because you got a brand new regime, Wagner isn't owed anything. We'll see, though. Wagner is a player that I really, out of Arkansas, UDFA last season, who I'm very intrigued to see what they end up doing with him. So that means this. We're going to be looking at the players that the Raiders are going to cut. If you've been following along with us, it's kind of easy to put the 2 and 2 together. Though I do want to say we are getting ready to get our Madden schedule started. We're going to be going live on Thursday, May 16th. It's going to be the very first Madden game simulation. These are like watch parties. If you enjoy our watch parties during the regular season, then you're going to love our Madden games as well. Some of these dates may fluctuate just based on my schedule, Jeremy's schedule, but the bottom line is I want y'all to know that we are already planning and getting ready to do our Madden simulation season. We had a lot of fun doing it last season. We kind of predicted that Jimmy Garoppolo was going to throw all the interceptions because he threw a shit ton of interceptions last year. We were close to the correct projection as well. I want to say Madden had us finishing with 9 wins, missing the playoffs. The Raiders finished the season with 8 wins, missed the playoffs. The schedule gets released on Wednesday, May 15th. So once we get that final schedule, we'll be able to give you guys the full details here of when all of our games are going to be going down. The final thing that we're going to talk about here on the Raiders revealing their offensive line plans, because even though they haven't said what they're going to do, again, this show is about being that Detective Sherlock Holmes and being able to read the tea leaves, being able to see the smoke and tell you where that fire is way before it happens. The offensive line cut candidates. These are going to be the 5 players right now on the Raiders that are on this team that will not end up making this roster. And that's even including the practice squad. So Jalen McKenzie, he's going to be the very first to go. He was the only second-year guy that's listed on this list that had to go to Raiders minicamp practice. Never a good sign. And then some of these other guys like UDFAs here and there, they might get other shots on some other teams like Andrew Coker, the offensive tackle from TCU. But these are the 5 guys that the Raiders have on the team right now that will not be on the team by the end of the season. If you enjoyed today's show and you want even more stuff from me, you can always hit me up on IG and on Twitter at Mitchell Renz 365. And if you're trying to get into a good Aiden O'Connell, Dak Prescott debate, hey, you can always follow my man Jeremy Chuggs at Jeremy Chuggs on social media as well. We appreciate each and every one of y'all always tuning in to the Raiders Report. Remember, we go live every single Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific. I will say the shows are starting to change based on the Madden schedule. Chuggs and I got a few other fun things up the tap. Who knows? We might even jelly wrestle here pretty soon.